When you think of a place like Queensbridge, you think of the history, you think of like, all the music videos that are shot, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, but behind those closed doors, like there's hella pain going on.
One in 15, or over 500,000 New Yorkers, are served by public housing and Section 8 programs. If NYCHA were a city, it would be larger than Sacramento, Atlanta, and Miami. But what started out as a promising concept, the nation's largest residential landlord, has steadily declined over the years. Over the last 20, federal public housing repair funding has dropped to half of the amount approved in the year 2000. This has led to tenants going without heat, plagued by rampant and recurring mold caused by unchecked leaks, and moisture that has caused asthma and other respiratory illnesses.
My name is Ilham, and I'm a recording artist. I make R&B, alternative R&B music, and I was born and raised in Queensbridge.
But you never even know, I was hurt like you, that you never even know.
Can you talk to me about what it's like growing up in New York City, just in the 5 boroughs at large?
If you grew up in New York City, that's it. Like you're good. And I think Queens is like, it's one of, in my opinion, probably the best borough, just because it's a melting pot. Everybody in Queensbridge has a dream, if that makes sense. And nobody's really afraid to dream big. Queensbridge just breeds one of the best people, the most talented people, because when you grow up with nothing, you're already at the bottom, you know what I'm saying? So there's nothing but the top. So it's like, we definitely work hard.
Love is the answer, dictates how you feel. Pain is an option, it's all about how you heal. Every day is a struggle.
My parents worked extremely hard to kind of like hide the pain behind closed doors. But as soon as I started to kind of understand what was happening, it all kind of shifted. Middle school is when my eyes really started to open. There was a lot of anxiety within my household, as well as other families within the projects. There always had to be someone who stayed home, if that makes sense. Whether it was one of my siblings, whether it was my mom, like there was always so much anxiety about us, just like, will something happen if we just step outside and get groceries, right? And that's not normal. I started understanding what exactly was happening, what people were going through, and it wasn't just me getting sent over to like my play cousin's house for a sleepover. It was more like I was getting sent there because there were massive floods happening and they had to deal with that. And, my entire life, like I definitely am blessed, but it was always like a balance between trying to fight for honestly your basic human rights and necessities, and also kind of be like any other kid and go through the journey that is life. My sister and I were like the little men of the house. We were always fighting for our parents, fighting for our neighborhood and whatnot. And when I went to school, like other kids weren't dealing with things like this, you feel me? It was like they were just going to school and their biggest obstacle was trying to pass an exam. But me, it's like I would cut class to run and basically beg NYCHA, hey, like, can you please like fix this flood, fix this leak? The mold is literally killing us. Like I have respiratory issues now. It was a balance that I don't think people really understand. And of course, my parents never wanted me to fight specific battles, but it's like, it's kind of instilled in you, especially when you see like the inhumane living conditions people are lived in, and we're expected to kind of like, we're almost desensitized.
On December 3rd of last year, Ilham took to Twitter to share a look inside her home and showed exactly what she and her family were going through. The tweet racked up over 250,000 views.
What compelled you to not only post the video online, but then begin to speak out against NYCHA? What was that final straw?
I never wanted to make a tweet so it can go viral, you understand? I did it because I just felt extremely helpless. Prior to that whole tweet going viral, there have been months of my sister and I specifically calling people, trying to figure out like what's happening. Like my parents' health is decaying, my brother's health is falling, mine is as well. And it's just like, we were just trying to understand, hey, why does no one care that there's floods, right? And these floods that are happening, it's not clean water. It's water from the pipes, it's water from the toilet. That cyclical feeling, like that's draining. You understand? Like that is draining to constantly have to fight for a humane living condition, regardless of where you live, whether you pay $1 a month or you pay $1 million a month. There's certain violations that were being broken.
Can you describe what we saw in the video?
The first thing you notice are the walls, which have mold in them, and usually walls that have bubbles on them indicate that there has been massive leaks and that there's water in between the walls. And with that, that means mold buildup, more bug infestation, because all of that usually is the seed to a lot of other violations. We've been on a wait list to have an emergency transfer for like 10 years. With the system, it's never really just a seamless process. It's always obstacles. But my mom, on the other hand, was very hopeful. Like she was just relieved, because the apartment was gonna be bigger, and like my siblings and I had been sharing a room. We go and we visit this space, this apartment, and what I saw was just very disgusting. Like I've never felt so embarrassed. I think the most painful part of that experience was looking at my mom and dad's faces, because they were just so hopeful that, finally these years of them fighting, these 2 decades that they've been fighting for just basic human rights, like they just walked in there and they're holding, like you could see my mom's heart broke. I shared the videos online, I shared the threads online, and then within a matter of I'd say an hour, the thing just started going viral. When that tweet happened, I actually was in LA. My parents were calling me like, hey, someone just knocked on the door, they want to come in and start repairing. And I was like, really? That's what they want to do? And I was like, let them in, see what they want to do. And what I quickly started to notice was, as the tweet was going viral, maintenance was sent to kind of look at the mold, scrape it, and paint over it. They were just sticking band-aids on all of the issue spots. You understand? Politicians started reaching out and they were going to visit my home. That's when the federal monitor contacted me, and that is probably the highest person that can contact you. And it was at that moment where everything shifted and things were taken a little bit more serious. The day I met the federal monitor was the day I had my first magazine cover shoot. And I had makeup on and shit, so I don't think people understood who I was. I was the girl that is living in that apartment. The housing supervisor actually stood there and was like, wow, what is this for? And he spent literally 40 minutes just staring at me. And I just had to stop the whole thing. And I was like, hey, do you know what's happening in 4110? At this point, my parents were making trips to the doctor. We were making trips to the doctor. I couldn't even sing because every time I took a deep breath, I couldn't breathe. You understand? So the one thing we requested is we just need an emergency transfer, because when the federal monitor walked in and he saw all the violations that were happening, from lead to mold to pests to floods, that apartment was deemed inhabitable, meaning nobody should be living there. So after the federal monitor said it was inhabitable, another emergency transfer request had happened, and they transferred us. We still live in the projects. I'm still fighting, and I'm still going with my journey, and I know things are gonna align very soon, and we'll be good. But this isn't about me. The issue is, right now with COVID-19, imagine if we still lived there. You know what I'm saying? Imagine if the tweet never went viral. One of the biggest way to combat the virus is by staying inside, right? But how can you stay inside when where you live is just, you can't live there?
how did you still manage to continue on your musical journey? Did you find that this kind of experience was kind of impeding on your music making process, or was it the contrary, where maybe you felt more inspired and you know, more tuned in to be able to make your art?
My friends and I, we laugh because it's like we say that I'm like the hood Hannah Montana, where like if you look at the social media, like you'll see me like in LA making music and this and that, but as soon as my 1 week of recording is done, I'm back in the trenches. And yes, of course, it was hard and difficult, but I've been doing this my entire life, living two different spectrums. I want everyone who's watching this to really understand that you can do whatever you set your mind to. And I know you're like, this bitch is corny. No, I'm not. I really do believe that like you can literally do anything you set your mind to, and society wants you to think that there's no life outside of the projects. You know what I'm saying? All odds are against us, but it's inevitably we have to continue working harder, and we have to reach those levels of success in order for us to really truly be activists and like actually make changes, because thousands of us are voiceless. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like continue to work hard and just don't take no for an answer. Like life is already, man, we're already at the bottom. So like how low can we really get? Like there's only the top from here. So